everyone, my name is Jacob Merk, and I am the Vice President of Investment Strategy at Provident Financial Consultants. And today we wanted to take a break from the investments and financial planning strategies and focus in on another important topic in cybersecurity. And actually, October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, so we thought it'd be a good idea to go over some common types of cyber attacks and ways that you can protect your personal information when you're online. Not to mention, we're about to go into the busy season of people doing a lot of online shopping as we gear up for the holiday season. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's jump right into the presentation. And unfortunately, identity theft is something that impacts millions of people in the United States and around the world. So it seems like almost every month there is a new news article that says another company has been hacked by these criminals. And unfortunately, hundreds of thousands to millions of people are impacted by that hack. And so the information that they're looking for is trying to get account information, personal information about them, social security numbers, user IDs, passwords, things of that nature, trying to get any information that they can to create any fraud and take advantage of that information that's provided to them. So the two types of cyber attacks that we'll go over today are social engineering and phishing. And unfortunately, phishing isn't the fun one where you're relaxing on a lake on a nice hot summer day, trying to catch some fish to potentially have a good meal later on. Both of these have some severe consequences if you're a victim of either of these two attacks. And with the social engineering, that tends to be a little bit more humanized, where there's more interaction between one person and another, where phishing could potentially be more automated and just blasted to thousands, if not millions of people. So as we talk about the first one with social engineering, it's a way for criminals to gain access to your computer or cell phone or tablet or anything that's connected to the internet and gain sensitive information that's on that device. So for instance, a social engineer may use a text message to send to a person's cell phone, inviting the person to click on a link to a bogus website where the thieves will collect the user's credentials and personal information. So one way to kind of give you a story of something that just happened to a friend of mine in the last few months here, where she was trying to sell personal items from her kids. It was kids' clothing and things of that nature. And she was trying to sell that on Facebook Marketplace, which probably many of you that are watching this webinar right now have tried to sell something on Facebook as well. So she posted some of these clothing, and there was a potential buyer that reached out and said, hey, I'm interested in buying this. Could you give me your cell phone number so I can make sure that you're an actual person? So she thought this sounds legitimate because, again, there are, just like there are fake buyers, there are also fake sellers on these marketplaces. So you just need to be careful if you're doing any shopping, either selling or buying on those social media marketplaces. But so she thought that that's a fair ask. So she gave the potential buyer, her cell phone number, and the buyer said, you'll expect a code, and this is going to verify that you're an actual person. So she looks, a few minutes later, she sees this code. It's coming from Google, and it says, here's your code. Do not share this with anybody else. So that raised a red flag for her and said, well, I'm not going to give this. If Google's telling me not to share this, I'm not going to send it to this buyer. So she messages the buyer, says, I received the code, but I'm not going to share it with you. The buyer then replies and is getting a little bit more aggressive, saying, hey, I really need this. If you want me to buy this item from you, you need to give me the code. And she then became uncomfortable with the situation, said it's just a $5 item. This isn't worth it to me. Blocked the potential buyer and watched all her user, anything that could have been connected with it, like her Gmail account, email, things of that nature, to make sure nothing suspicious went on after the interaction. But nothing did happen, thankfully. And it could have been really bad if she would have just simply sent that code to the buyer and could have had access to a bunch of different things. So again, just be very careful if you're doing any shopping online, especially over these marketplaces. So to go through some examples and to then reference the story that I shared, if you feel like there is someone that's pressuring you to act immediately, saying that you'll miss out on this great opportunity, that you'll be in trouble if you don't act now. That's usually two signs to say maybe stay away, take some moment in time to think things clearly. If it's a legitimate transaction or a legitimate company, they should be giving you some time in order to act and resolve things. So again, going back to my friend's story, the buyer was pushing, trying to get the code, and that's one sign to say, maybe this is a scammer. I should maybe just step away and not pursue anything further. The second way is that scammers tell you to pay in a specific way. So they'll either ask for a wire transfer or put money on a gift card, or they may send you a fake check. It looks legitimate, but it's fake. They ask you to deposit that money and then write a check out to them. And then unfortunately, by the time that you realize the check that you deposited was fake, they've already cashed the check that you sent them, and you're unfortunately out the money that you deposited and that you sent out to that scammer. So just be very careful if someone's telling you to pay in a very specific way or limiting your transactions. Again, could be legitimate reasons, but really if they're asking you to deposit money for you to send them money, that's one thing to say, okay, this might be a scam here, and no longer pursue. So again, just some ideas and some examples of some social engineering scams that we've seen. Going on to our next cyber attack with phishing. This one, again, is going to be a little bit more automated. It's not going to be as personalized. It's going to be sent out to thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people. And you probably have experienced this if you have any email, no matter if it's a Gmail, Yahoo, whatever email you have, you've probably been a target of a phishing attack. And this is where a scammer pretends to be a reputable company. So probably a business that you've done a lot of business with, or a site that you interact and go on their website quite frequently, to try to get that trust that you have with that company and to give your personal information to them. So they try to do this through a number of different communication, whether it's through email, which is the most common form, but they also will use website pop-ups, text messages, or even when you download a mobile app. And so during this cyber attack, criminals can infect your system with a malicious code, infect your search engine, infect documents if you download any documents on a social networking site. And these aren't, again, limited to just your laptop. I know that's the thing that we all think about, but this can also happen on your cell phone and your tablets as more devices are connected to the internet and are easy to browse the World Wide Web. So this occurs when you download a malicious app that, when it's installed, provides the criminal with access to your phone or, again, tablet and its information. They can even sometimes control the device remotely if you download a certain malware, which I think is the scariest thing, because again, someone could be hundreds, if not thousands of miles away, and they could still move around on your computer and still get access to information. So again, just be very careful, because they can do some significant damage if you download any of these phishing scams. So again, some examples of phishing. The first one was the foreign lottery. And this is something that I saw quite a bit back when I was a teller at my local bank. And I had customers come in saying that they were all excited that they won the Australian lottery. All they had to do was deposit this check that they received from them, and then they would have to send them money in order to receive this big prize. So two things I would tell them was, first of all, did you enter any information into this lottery, or did you pay for a lottery ticket? All the time, it was a no. The second thing that really was the biggest red flag to me was they had to deposit money in order to receive money and send money out to them. So that's where, again, if you ever have to deposit money and send money out, that's a sign to maybe stay away and don't pursue anything further. The second one was survey says, and I know everyone likes taking surveys and we like watching Family Feud and get to see the top responses for a particular topic or question. But be very careful. These scammers try to prey on our that we like to answer questions, and it might be for something that we really strongly believe in, whether it's a social issue or a company that we have a strong feeling towards, where they will send a survey out to you, whether it's through a text message or through an email. And then when you click on that link, they infect your device with the malware that you downloaded when you clicked on that link. So again, be very careful with filling out surveys that are sent directly to you. If a company really wants to get a hold of you, they will contact you in multiple different ways to get information from you. The last one is bank on it. So this is when you receive an email from saying that there's something wrong with your account, whether it's your bank, PayPal account, Netflix account, anything along those lines, any account that you have online. And they say, these are the steps that you need to do. Contact this number or click on this link or whatever the case may be to get this personal information from you. So again, if you're getting it from Netflix, for example, don't use the number that's provided in that message. Use the number that you know that's on their website to give them a call to see if something is truly wrong. So again, because we have Netflix on here, it's a good segue for a personal story, unfortunately, that I've had over the last few months now. I'm very judicious on watching my emails, making sure that what's coming in, is there any concern that I need to be addressing? And of course, while I'm on vacation, I'm looking at my email and I see 3 emails from Netflix. The first one says that there is a registered device that was from Baltimore, Maryland that logged onto my Netflix account. So red flag there, never been to Baltimore. It wasn't there now. So I was like, okay, this is something that I need to monitor. The second email said that they changed my email address from my personal email to another one. So again, I haven't changed the email addresses and I didn't initiate that. So another red flag. The third one was they changed the service from the least expensive option that I have to the most expensive one. So now I have upgraded my services and I'm going to be paying more on a monthly basis. The only thing that this scammer didn't do was change the credit card number. So what was being paid for this Netflix subscription was still on, I still had to pay for, but they were enjoying the benefits of having it. So I gave them a call, Netflix, and said, hey, this was not initiated by me. I've been hacked. Can you fix this for me? Which they did. I had to answer some questions to make sure that it is me. So again, you might have to take those steps because again, when a company is trying to figure out who's actually making these changes, they may be asking some personal information from you, which is fine because again, they want to make sure that it is you that's calling. And I was able to get that fixed within 15-20 minutes. So again, just be very cautious. I think I'm a pretty prudent person while I'm online, but again, this stuff can still happen to anybody. So now that we've gone over some common scams and common cyber attacks that we see, these are some 8 questions to think about if you feel like you're being a victim of a scam. And again, these aren't the only 8 questions that you need to ask yourself, but I think this definitely will help. So the first one, does it pass the eye test? And this is especially true when it comes to these phishing emails. A lot of times these phishing emails will have a lot of spelling or grammatical or punctuation errors. The logo that this company uses looks a little fuzzy. The color isn't exactly right. So it just looks a little off. If that's the case, I would recommend delete it right away. Again, if that company wants to get a hold of you, they will try multiple different ways to get information if they need it. So again, if it doesn't pass the eye test, I would just delete it and move on. The second one is, are they asking for too much information? So it could be your company's asking for your social security number or bank account information when they really don't need that information whatsoever. So if you feel like, do you really need to know all this information? Maybe take a step back, reevaluate, and see if they really do need it, and if you really want to do business with that particular person or company. So again, going back to the story of this buyer was trying to verify my friend to try to sell these clothing items that were only about $5 a piece. And we were going through all these steps and needing a code and things of that nature in order to do business on a $5 item. So again, it seemed like that buyer was asking for too much information. So again, just be very cautious when it comes to that. The next two, do I know you? Do you know me? Sounds pretty common sense and seems like it's something that you should just know, but sometimes you just need to step back and say, hey, have I done business with this company, or how do they know my information? And if you haven't done business with them in the past, maybe just avoid those emails because it might be from a scammer trying to get information from you. Or if you are trying to do business with them for the first time, just be a little bit more cautious just because you don't have any frame of reference there. The fifth one, is this a legitimate link? So again, going from a text message or an email, when we talked about with these surveys, sometimes they'll say, to get this great deal from target.com, you need to click on this website link in order to get the 50% coupon. Well, if you hover over that hyperlink and it doesn't say www.target.com or something along those lines, and it says www.chinashopping.com or something along those lines, well, then you know that's not the correct link to get to Target. So again, delete the email right away. Do not click on that link and avoid that email or text message with deleting it right away. The sixth one, am I on the web page I think I'm on? So again, this is going a little bit like the legitimate link topic question that you should be asking, but more so if you're on Facebook and you see a link to that will take you to a company's website that you can do some shopping on there. Sometimes those posts on Facebook are going to not the company you think you are, and it's going to a completely different website. So again, if you see something on social media that's promoting a particular company and you know their website, maybe type that website in and not use that social page link, just because it might be taking you to the wrong web page, and then you might be giving up your user ID, password information, and then it will be too late once you enter that information on the incorrect website. The second last one, is it too good to be true? So avoid those free offers or it's an extreme discount, because as my grandfather always told me, if it smells like a skunk and it looks like a skunk, it's probably a skunk. So these scammers are trying to get us, because we're all trying to be prudent shoppers and we're all trying to get this great deal. So they're trying to take advantage of that feeling and trying to get you to go through a link or try to pursue a transaction because you're trying to get the best deal. So again, just be very cautious. If it seems too good to be true, unfortunately, it probably is. And lastly, this isn't necessarily a question that you should be thinking, but making sure that you have some security software on your computer, tablet, mobile device, that when you're searching the internet and you do fall for one of these scams, that you have another layer of protection to hopefully protect your device from giving up this personal information that you've stored on it. So again, it's always nice to have another layer of security, and this is what that software provides. And if you don't know what security software you should be having, talk to your local computer shop or talk to a family member or friend that might be able to point you in the right direction that's going to work the best for you. So again, just think of some of those questions if you feel like you're a little uneasy about what's been sent to you or where you are. If you do find yourself a victim of any of these cyber attacks, please contact any company that is associated with your online account or your personal information right away. Go to the credit bureaus, tell them that this transaction or this line item that's on your credit report was not by you, so they can add a statement to your credit report as you try to get that off. Contact local authorities, things of that nature, so they can try to get that off your credit report. And also for some people, if you're not trying to go out and obtain loans, it might be a good idea to freeze your credit, because that's just another way to protect yourself if you do find yourself a victim of one of these attacks, that they have to have even more information to take out a loan in your name. So again, it's just another way to protect yourself. Think about freezing your credit as almost having another layer of security software that you have on your devices, but this is for your credit reports. Some ways to be proactive if you're online and doing transactions on it. is never give out your credit card or personal information over the internet or telephone unless you initiate that communication. So if you get a phone call from a company and they're trying to act like they're from Target.com or from Target, and they're trying to get information from you, and you don't really recognize the number, hang up the phone, give the number a call that you know works and that's associated with the company, to make sure that the information you're sending over the internet or over the phone is going to the correct places and not someone that's trying to act like this reputable company. Second thing is always look over your bank account statements and your credit card statements every month at least, and make sure that everything looks legitimate. So one thing that happened to my wife and I a few years ago, we were at a flea market and we bought 4 or 5 coasters for around $20. And so we thought we got a good deal. We were happy with it. So after a few weeks, I am checking my credit card statement and I noticed that those coasters are not $20, they were $220. So I was thinking, whoa, these are way more expensive than both my wife and I ever anticipated. So I did some research, tried to find out what company it was that we bought it from, and gave them a call. They saw that item on their end, and they said that's our mistake, and we'll get that fixed for you right away. So they changed it from $220 down to $20 and gave a credit back to my credit card statement. So again, if I wasn't due diligent and wasn't reconciling my credit card statement, I could have been out to $200. So again, it's good to double check that every single month to make sure that there's no errors or extra transactions that are on there. Third thing is always monitor your accounts online to detect any suspicious activity. Try to figure out if there's any transactions that you haven't done with your credit card company or your bank, and then contact the local authorities and those companies right away if you do feel like you've become a victim. So again, kind of going back to my story of finding out that my Netflix account was hacked, I was monitoring my email, trying to see if anything had been going on in the past few days, and just seeing if there was anything that I need to handle. So it's, again, a good idea to monitor all your online accounts once in a while to make sure that nothing fishy is going on. And the last thing is review your credit report at least once a year, and contact and notify the credit bureaus if you do have any entries that do not look correct. So the 3 credit bureaus are TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. So you can actually get a free credit report from them every single year from each one of the companies. So if you want to get extra credit for this, you can take a look at your credit report more than once. You can maybe look at TransUnion in the first 4 months of the year, and then the next 4 months of the year, you could look at Equifax. And then as we wrap up the year, you can look at Experian to see if there's any entries on there that are not legitimate. And they all have different criteria, and they may have different entries on each one of their credit reports. So that's why it's a good idea to take a look at all 3 of them instead of just one. And lastly, as we're talking about some password tips, is keep your passwords private and update them annually. So we all kind of know that we shouldn't be really sharing our user IDs and passwords, but the one thing that probably most of us don't do are update our passwords. The reason why it's a good idea to do that is that in case someone gets old information, old user ID and password for a particular online account that you have, well, if it's 2 years ago and you've already updated it twice and they try to use that information, your user ID and that old password, well, they're not going to be able to get into your account. So that's why it's a good idea to update it at least annually. Even though it might be a pain to do that, it's a good prudent thing to do. Another thing is, instead of using one word, use a unique phrase that uses upper and lowercase letters, numbers, special characters like the exclamation point, as ways to make it even more difficult for a hacker to assume what your password is. And this kind of goes into the second line item: never use personal or family names, favorite teams, things that you like to do, hobbies, consecutive keyboard keys. So doing like A, B, C, D, E, F as your passwords, because those are just some common things that these scammers are kind of trying to do to log into your online accounts. So another thing to keep in mind of, again, I know it's fun to take those quizzes that are on Facebook and trying to get information from you. So like, what's my favorite color? What's your favorite sports team? Things like that. If you answer those quizzes and you post them on Facebook, now if a scammer is looking at your profile page and sees all that information, they may be using that as a clue to figure out what passwords you're using for all of your online accounts. So just be very careful on posting that type of information out to the public. So assume anything that you post online is something that everyone in the world could see. And lastly, do not use the same password for all the different online accounts that you have. The reason behind that is that if you use the same password and one of your companies that you do business with or having an online account with gets hacked, and now they have your user ID and password, and they now can use that across the board. So let's say this is for your Walmart account and Walmart would get hacked. Then if you use that same combination of user ID and password with your bank account, credit card statement, and all these other things, now they can access all those accounts. And you could be in a worse spot than just having your Walmart account being hacked. So I just wanted to say that's all the time that we had for today. Hopefully you found some of this information useful, and I hope you can apply one or two of these tips when you're shopping online or browsing the internet the next time you're doing that. If you do have any questions about any of the material, you can reach out to us at info@providentfc.com, and someone from the team will get back to you as quickly as possible. Again, thank you so much for joining me today, and we look forward to seeing you at our next month's webinar. Have a great day.